Jimmy Phelan came to be the head coach of the Huskies. Coach Phelan had many successful years.
Corner of the end zone where Mark Patterson makes the catch with just 34 seconds to go.
Polk, right side, yes! Polk into the end zone, touchdown Washington!
Thanks to the Cascade Mountains, the great state of Washington is divided perfectly in half, kind of like the 50-yard line of a football field. People describe themselves as either being Western Washingtonians or Easterners. But if you're a college football fan, you either live in Husky territory or Cougar country. The Dawgs and the Cougs get to mix it up once a year in one of the oldest traditions in college football, the Apple Cup.
Thomas probably to stay in and block for Heward, as does Sheehy. Heward steps up, throws deep, double coverage. It's caught!
Off play action, Carney to the end zone, touchdown Washington State. Dwight Tardy's fourth rushing touchdown of the year.
Yeah, nice call. Spread them out. Little three receivers to the top side, one receiver down to the weak side.
Play fake, leap, goes down. Great play by Jason Chorak.
Hopefully he's just shaking it off. See Chorak gets inside position. Ryan is trying to decide, and you see how that knee buckled in there a little bit.
For over 100 years, this bitter rivalry between the University of Washington and Washington State University in Pullman has defined two camps of people who politely agree on one thing. They hate each other.
There's a difference between Cougar football and Husky football. Husky football's up here, Cougar football's down here. That's the way it's been, that's the way it should be.
Second down and 7 for the Huskies. 3-1 they do. Kaufman pops it. Gets to the right side. Start blocking. Janowski in front of him. Can he get to the corner? Touchdown, Washington!
And the last game of every season, the Huskies and the Cougars turn all of that emotion into some of the best football ever played.
3rd and 10.
Well, there he is again.
Carroll again. First down. He could go all the way. He's got speed.
It didn't matter what your record was. All they talked about was the rivalry between Washington and Washington State. And I didn't know much about it because I hadn't been up here before. But you quickly learn that it's a pretty bitter rivalry as it gets closer to game day. All the questions you're asked about, the fans are really into it. The student body is really into it. You know, people on campus are talking to you about, we got to beat WSU this week. We got to beat WSU this week.
And fell into the hands of Spider Gaines, who runs it in for a touchdown. The Huskies win it 28-27.
The annual bash used to be called the Governor's Trophy, a rather dignified handle. In 1962, someone thought the apple was a better state symbol, even though it does seem to favor Eastern Washington. But the Huskies have dominated historically, winning 2 out of every 3 games. And that makes the people in Cougar Country really mad.
Look at the motion man, quick toss to him. He's looking downfield, wide open is Joe Jarzinka. Touchdown for Jarzinka in his final game in Husky Stadium.
Just took a page out of the Cougar playbook.
Dane Looker's first hookup for the score.
One of the oldest Apple Cup moments on film goes back to 1950. Hugh McElhaney ran for nearly 300 yards. 84 of them came in this single run. The Huskies smothered the Cougars 52-21.
Then came the showdown.
In 1981, the stage was set for one of the most dramatic Apple Cups in Husky football history. For the Cougars, the real drama was in the preceding week when the Huskies played the mighty USC Trojans.
The Trojans' great tailback Marcus Allen got his 2,000 yards, but he never broke the big one. Ray Kadich and Ken Driscoll made sure on this play.
they had actually benefited greatly from the Huskies beating USC the previous week, because USC again was in line to kind of go to the Rose Bowl. Marcus Allen won the Heisman Trophy that year, and the Huskies beat USC the previous week in Seattle in the rainstorm, the 13-3 game when Fred Small recovered the kickoff in the end zone. And so that set up the Apple Cup, and that actually really benefited the Cougars. Probably a rare time the Cougars were all rooting for the Huskies because they needed USC to have a loss. So that created the situation where WSU then was in a win and go to the Rose Bowl.
One of the very few times that the Apple Cup was also for the Rose Bowl. It had that kind of significance to it, and those were both good football teams that year. I mean, the Apple Cup is always an entity unto itself. The stakes are always high, but now throw in the notion of this game's for the Rose Bowl. It was as intense an Apple Cup game as you'll ever want to see.
It just was a pivotal game. It was one of the games, in an awful lot of the Husky Cougar games, we're the favorite, and that scares you. In this game, it was, hey, we're even up here, and the winner gets all the roses.
Early in the game, the Huskies show their power through the all-star running back, Jock Robinson.
Freshman tailback Jock Robinson doing much of the damage, running right at the Cougars.
The Huskies strike first with a Chuck Nelson field goal and a 3-0 lead.
The Huskies on the scoreboard. His 39-yard field goal gave Washington a 3-0 lead. The Cougars came back to take the lead, but with less than 2 minutes to go in the half, the Huskies drove downfield. Cookie Jackson on the draw here for 14 yards.
The Cougars answer with their own touchdown, but with less than 2 minutes left in the half, Steve Pallure launches a pass into the end zone.
Complete for a touchdown! Paul Scanzi, a miraculous catch!
A miraculous catch indeed, and the Huskies had the lead 10-7 at halftime.
It was a corner route from Paul Scanzi, who had, this kid coming out of Gig Harbor and just caught everything. And it was anybody's game at that point, and Washington needed a score desperately, but he just barely got the feet down in that right corner of the end zone. A nice throw from Steve and a terrific catch from Paul against a really good Cougar secondary. And the timing of it was so significant coming right before halftime. Biggest play of the game.
The Cougars led 7-3, and the Huskies were driving near the end of the half, and kind of in the corner of the end zone, Paul Scanzi stole the ball away from a WSU cornerback named Nate Bradley. It looked for a second like maybe Nate Bradley was going to pick it off, and maybe even, who knows what he might do with it if he intercepts it. Instead, Paul Scanzi kind of reaches over and makes the catch out of the end zone, and that really seemed to turn the momentum of the game. That gave him a 10-7 lead at halftime.
One of the big plays in the drive, this reverse run by Anthony Allen that gained 19 yards. That's big Eric Moran blocking downfield. 2 plays later, they scored again. The Cougars tied it with a field goal on their first possession of the second half. Then Washington drove 80 yards in 10 plays to go on top again. One of the big plays in the drive, this reverse run by Anthony Allen that gained 19 yards. That's big Eric Moran blocking downfield. 2 plays later, they scored again.
Pallure, draw play to Cookie Jackson, breaks it open 20, 15, 10, Jackson to the 5, Cookie Jackson, touchdown Washington!
In the second half, the Dawgs are on a roll.
The one was absolutely thunderous hit by a Husky safety named Vince Newsom that forced a fumble that Washington recovered that helped set up that victory.
The defense didn't give the Cougars another chance. Vince Newsom applied the big hit here, knocked the ball loose. Fletcher Jenkins was there to make the fumble recovery. A field goal made it 20-10.
It was kind of a typical Husky win of that time where I think they forced 5 WSU turnovers and they really took control with the running game. So it was really a defense, special teams, running game kind of win, which especially in the early Don James era was the hallmark of his teams.
In the fourth quarter, the Huskies had the Cougars deep in their own end. Quarterback Ricky Turner threw over the middle. Kenny Driscoll made the second best catch of the day at the 19. Another Nelson field goal made it 23-10. The Cougars got 1 first down on their final possession, but the Husky defense was firmly in control of the football game at that point. Lynn Matson made the hit on Turner and recovered the fumble to boot as Washington won the finale. USC's 1-point win over UCLA in Los Angeles meant the
The Cougars are held to one more field goal, and the Huskies are headed to Pasadena.
First of all, for winning the Apple Cup, you won it very decisively today. And secondly, I want to present you the Apple Cup. Secondly, the entire state is confident that come New Year's Day in the Rose Bowl, you're going to show it again. Congratulations and best of luck.
I think our players finally discovered that the team we play when we play the Cougars is not going to be the same team we've looked at in film. And we got to recognize that we respect them as much or more than they respect us. We can't let them get an advantage over the respect factor and the preparation factor. And I think it kicked in.
In 1991, Don James was at the peak of his career and had built a Husky team that simply had no weaknesses. Led by Mark Brunell, it also included All-American wide receiver Mario Bailey and defensive superstar Steve Entman. That season, the Huskies were too much to handle, and the Cougs knew it coming into the game.
So here come the Cougars at the end of the year, and the Huskies are one win away from going back to the Rose Bowl. They got the memory of UCLA in 1990 in the back of their minds. They know if they win it, there's a good chance they'll be included in the conversation for the national championship.
The Cougars' best hope was quarterback Drew Bledsoe, an NFL legend in the making.
Drew Bledsoe, he was great. He was one of the best college quarterbacks I've ever seen. But it was almost like, can we just get to the end and get our bouquet of roses and go play for the national championship? A little bit, you know. We were just that good at that time. We didn't overlook them. We prepared like we should have prepared. We were ready. We had a good game plan. It's just they weren't good enough.
And I got one big memory from that game, which was Drew Bledsoe was the quarterback for Washington State that year. He's obviously one of the premier quarterbacks in the country. And he throws a pass to the sideline. I think it was on the closed end down here. And Walter Bailey picks him off. And Drew Bledsoe makes the mistake of trying to bring him down. And if you watch the tape, it's like a bug hitting the windshield of a Mack truck going about 100 miles an hour. Bailey basically picked up Bledsoe and brought him right into the end zone with him.
That one play set it all for the 91 Apple Cup. By the end of the day, the Cougs limped out of Husky Stadium, losing 56-21.
There had been so much talk about payback from Washington State to Washington and how it was their turn, it was their time, and Washington was in a position that you can never remember Washington being in before, where they're the spoiler against the Cougars.
The Huskies jumped in front of the Cougars on their first possession. Hobart hooked up with McKay for 69 yards and a touchdown. The Husky defense stifled the Cougars in the second period. All Pac-10 honorable mention middle guard Tyrone Rogers and sophomore DeMarco Farr team up to stop this play. Billy Joe tossed to fullback Darius Turner, a junior from Gardena, California. And Washington was up for good. Donald Jones bust through for a sack, 1 of 7 for Washington this day.
When Washington State came in here, again, toughness is what you always talk about with Washington football. And in that game, that game was won on the goal line. And that defense they would not relent. They would not allow Washington State entry into the end zone. There was so many times where you thought, all right, Washington State's going to score. They just got to punch this in. And that defense held them up. The energy from that and the crowd, when it's so deflating when you can't get in and when you're so close. It's just, you can feel it, you could taste the end zone, and they couldn't get in there. That was, again, when the crowd goes crazy here because of the defense, it had to be so painful for the Cougars to not be able to punch it in here in Husky Stadium and hear the crowd roar right in their face and deny them a chance to go to the Rose Bowl. That was one of my favorite plays ever. 2003 Apple Cup didn't mean a lot in terms of the win and loss record, and there wasn't a ton riding on the line, but the Cody Pickett to Corey Williams connection and how many hands that it barely went through. I was 2 feet away from that play, and flipping and watching the ball in flight and how many hands it had to go through. And Corey Williams, who was a freshman, he didn't know what he was doing, but man, he did the right thing at the right time, and he was where he was supposed to be. And that is one of the best catches that you're ever going to see at the biggest moment with the game on the line. The Apple Cup is theirs yet again. It was, I mean, that catch is one that I won't forget. It was a game winner catch in the Apple Cup. For him, it's got to be one of the best moments in his life, coming through and winning the Apple Cup as a freshman. That play was lasered from Cody Pickett to Corey Williams. I'm sure that for Cody Pickett, that might be his favorite play all time.
Yeah, for me, it was probably my last game as well, the 1995 Apple Cup. It was my senior year. I knew it was the last game I was ever going to play.
Hewer to Sheehy. Touchdown, Washington. Hewer steps up, throws deep, double coverage. It's caught! Unbelievable kick. Steve Janoski took it away from Brian Walker.
Much like last week, just throwing up the prayer, hoping that your guy comes down with it. Janoski is the smallest player of the guys going after this football. Stewart's in good position. You see the little bumping going on, and it goes right through the hands of Walker for the touchdown.
I had some individual records on the line that game. Not that that means a whole lot, because the special thing that happened that day was we found out late in the game that USC had lost, and that had we won that day, we were going to be co-Pac-10 champs. So it was all on the line. A young Ryan Leaf came in here in Washington State. They were hot. It was 30-30 in the fourth quarter, a couple of minutes left. We had a long kickoff return, had the winning field goal, and I can remember on the sidelines just before that fourth quarter, Lawyer Malloy walking up and down the sideline saying, "Hey man, SC lost. We're playing for a ring today. We're playing for a championship that we will have the rest of our lives," you know. And it was a special moment. And yeah, the individual records are great and all that stuff, but it's about that team success. The last time ever playing in that stadium, a big win against the Cougs. You know, that's what it's all about.
For all the seniors, and the captains in particular, and for everybody who has stuck with this program, all the ones who are here right now, okay, it's both the Apple Cup, it's a proper ending to this year, it's the start of another win streak at home at Husky Stadium, okay, and it's co-champions in the Pac-10.
The Husky football experience promises lots of great moments every game, and they are all underscored, literally, with the infectious music of the marching band. 240 members put on the biggest, brassiest show on earth, and this is one of the few marching bands in college today that moves in a traditional high-step choreography.
Husky Stadium was considered one of the most picturesque stadiums in the country, and without a doubt, I mean, for us to be out there as a band practicing and then, you know, oops, there goes a bald eagle, or any number of things, it's a really special place, and it's a great stadium for marching bands. The overhang holds the sound in, and that's why it's most of the fans in the stadium can hear us whenever we're playing, or even if it's just a small group. It's a great place to play. It's a rather long day. We report 4 hours before kickoff. From there, the band then goes into the zone and forms the tunnel for the team and the team walk. And 20 minutes before kickoff is when the band takes the field for our pregame show. And that, of course, culminates with us simulating the raising of the flag and playing of the national anthem. And then we wait for the team to come out, and we're standing there in front of the student section getting them fired up prior to the game. Even though we're a traditional style band, we like to let our hair down.
And the Husky marching band came out in costume. This wacky, wonderful bunch puts in as much practice time as the football team.
The fans love the script Huskies. I mean, they wish we could do that every game, and we just can't because it's long. It's 4.5 minutes. It takes a long time to spell out Huskies like you're writing it in script, and it's a great tradition. Anytime we do Louis and Tequila, of course, that usually has something to do with touchdowns being scored, but we can never play that too much for the fans. We always try to stay up with what the student body's going to enjoy, as well as the diehard longtime Huskies. There are some things that we play that are called up because of what just happened on the field. When it comes time to play, if I got to get their attention real quick, we'll just throw up the pinky for Tequila, or this for Louie, or I don't know why. Everybody's Everything has always just been 5 fingers. George of the Jungle is this, so it's we've got for practically everything that we all the tunes that we play a lot of. There was even we had a tune called "Hooked on Classics," and that was so. Yeah, if we're going to play it a lot over the course of the season, it's almost a game as to who can come up with the best hand signal for the tune. The helmet card, it's such an icon in Husky football games, and the tradition is that it always goes around the track after every touchdown, and it's always loaded up with cheerleaders and drum majors and such. And it's built on a 72 V-dub bug chassis. Yeah, there's been a few games, there's been a few parades where we've had to hop out and push it. When it's time to get it down there to the parade route, Seattle Police will send a motorcycle escort, and they'll usually send about 4. But this one particular year, for whatever the reason, they sent 8. So it was so funny because they were stopping cars at the intersections, and people were thinking the President of the United States was in town or something. And all of a sudden, here comes the helmet car. We're just putting down the street. They're wondering, this thing got a motorcycle escort of 8?
Whether it's commanding you to bow down to Washington or dishing out a shot of tequila, some people just know how to have fun. Every game it's the same. One great Husky band with 72,000 groupies.
Next time on Greatest Moments at Husky Stadium.
The best moment that I've ever experienced at Husky Stadium was beating USC my junior year. Vinovich and SC coming to town, and the old saying, all I saw was purple.